And
So-
Aurora sits down in the seat that you have open next to her quietly. Doesn't say a word yet. Kind of keeps facing forward, too. Doesn't really look at you.
I'm going to kind of like, as inconspicuously as possible, just kind of slide her over the drink.
Mm-hmm.
Say, were you followed?
She takes the drink in her hands, downs about half of it. You can see her hands trembling a little bit. Not so much. Not Michael J. Fox. Just like, is that too soon?
That's sad.
I love Michael J. Fox, but his hands. Okay.
Right.
There's a tremble to them, not a full shake. She's not like freaking out, but there is just that little bit of like jerkiness to it, and she seems to be using that drink to sort of steady herself. But she says, "I don't believe so. No."
Well, after those boys left, we tailed them. We followed them to, and I'll give her all the details about like where and kind of the fact that they didn't speak and all of that.
She listens to all that. She starts to process it a bit, and she says, "That's a good bit of information. It would make some sense. There's always a ton of foot traffic there, a lot of crowds for people to get lost in pretty easily. Probably the most populated area of the city, so the idea of them using that as some way to whisk people off would make some sense."
If you think that that is a possible destination, we can definitely look into that more later. But for now, I want to make the most out of the time that we have for you to tell us more information that you weren't able to share in the warehouse.
Well, I can't tell you a ton more than what you already know, but project's been going for about 2.5 years. Feels longer, really, but long enough, I suppose. In the beginning, we all started working on it, and everything was above ground. But a couple months in, once we started really working with more of the advanced technology involved with this boat, that was when family members and other important people to the engineers involved started disappearing. I don't know much about some of the other situations. Some of them might just be getting paid off more and be completely on board with working for him. I have no idea whether it's a personal leverage or just financial or what their motivations are. We don't speak about it much. But at least Dunosk and I, and probably a couple of others, have been forced into this with higher stakes.
What is it that you're developing? We saw what Dunosk had in his dock by Lake whatever. What is it that you're working on?
Well, from what I understand of Dunosk's project, it was more about a lightweight, easier, faster traveling ship that eventually could be reproduced on a bigger scale for more like public transport. But he was really working on the specifics of how that would be able to go faster and faster. A small craft, of course, is easier to propel through the water. We're working on something that's much larger than that, as I'm sure you saw in the warehouse, but it's also meant to be a submersible. The plating on the outside essentially might give it the ability to be watertight, and as such travel underneath the surface beyond detection of scouts or people in towers or anybody that might see a boat approaching from underneath the surface. It could be much more valuable, which is what concerns me about Faust Dryden's involvement.
How long ago did they take Keith?
It's been a year and a half or so now.
And what do they provide for proof of life?
They check in with me less than they used to for Dunosk, but every 3 or 4 days, maybe twice a week. Sometimes it's pictures. Occasionally I actually get to talk to him, but the conversations are kept short so that I can't, find any information about where they might be holding him or anything, but it's enough to at least recognize his voice and know that he's okay. He sounded increasingly tired and weary in the beginning, and now he's almost resolved to it. It's been going on for so long.
I'm thinking, and I'm I'm trying to be mindful of, like, if Grail is going to send any information, and I know there are things happening concurrently. But
Yeah, you can check in now, though. It's been long enough. So, Grail, as you're kind of watching the early going of this conversation, you see her sit down take the drink, can't see the hand shaking. But, she starts having this conversation with Isaac. They're going back and forth, and you can, as you're watching this gentleman with a 12, yes?
Mm-hmm.
It's difficult to pick up anything about as far as, like, who this is. The duster has, like, a collar up to the point where you can't really see anything below the neck, and it's covering everything up down to his ankles. Humanoid of some kind, could be elvish, I'm not entirely sure, but certainly something like one of those main races. And the only thing you really notice is that he's not eating anything, he's not drinking anything, and he's just continuing to stare directly at where this conversation is happening. He's got a real relaxed pose in his chair. He's just kind of leaned back, arms draped across the side. And even just from kind of surveying what he's doing, he doesn't even seem to be listening. But he continues to stare in their direction.
I'm going to keep an eye on him, and I think I'm also going to send a message. I'm going to wait for a moment when it looks like Isaac is neither of them are speaking, or there's just a moment of silence, and send another message and say, I have eyes on him. I'm gonna keep watch, and I'll let you know if anything changes, but he's not making any moves.
Distract him.
Oh, great. Oh, good. Yeah, no, that would be...
use some of that southern charm.
Oh, God.
Hey!
Yeah. Here comes Agnes Whittlewood, master seducer.
Oh,
Master
no.
of cleavage.
Should I? That's gonna be so bad.
You absolutely should. Even if
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's an optimal plan. I'm just saying I want to see this.
I want to watch you fail.
Is where he's sitting, is the table, are there empty chairs?
Yep, it's unoccupied except for him.
Except for him. Okay, that's kind of interesting.
Just like Karash.
Okay, all right, here I go. Number 2. I'm going to kind of amble my way over. Not like I'm drunk, but that I am kind of like just
Drunk.
have it like I'm drunk. I'm a little buzzed,
Not
right?
drunk,
So just
but
kind of have a little bit, like a little bit of a pep in my step, and I'm just gonna, like, as smooth as I can, which is probably not smooth at all. I am going to sit across from him and kind of sit kind of casually and smile, try to be super charming, and just say, "What's a girl got to do for a drink around here?"
Yeah. I imagine the sexy walk like the girl in Jumanji, by the way.
But the untrained one.
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh,
I don't think Grail would have any idea how to do the alternative.
Not
but
the
yes.
suddenly able to do a Hurricane Rana one.
No.
Yes.
As you pull back the chair and sit at this table, he does not look in your direction at all. He continues to stare just over in the general direction of Isaac and Aurora. You have a better line of sight of what he's looking at. It is indeed at the two of them, or at least very close to them. And all he says to you is, "Move along, little lady."
Have I noticed that she got up and moved to this table?
I would say you probably have eyes on this, yes.
Okay. I'm going to look around and see if there's anybody around who looks like that guy.
Make a perception check.
Her name was Ruby Roundhouse, by the way.
Yeah.
Yes. 5! Oh, good.
How do you fail so badly on a thing that you... Wow. No, it doesn't seem like you see anybody else that looks like him. In fact, you kind of are just drawn to the idea that Grail suddenly moved over here. You look around the room, but it doesn't seem like anybody else is wearing the same attire. It's not like before where you had those, like, again, the mercs or whatever they were that had the matching attire. Here, this guy appears to be extremely unique.
Okay. I'm going to keep an eye on them, or, well, Isaac and Grail now back and forth. If anything happens, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's very possible. I'm gonna
Excuse me. Agnes or Isaac. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, excuse me. I'm going to like kind of lean forward a little bit, like just a little sexy, and and say, "Oh, come on, it's party time."
Is it a little sexy or a lot of sexy? It's an illusion, so you have No,
so I want to say that like I do look like a general kind of like elf or whatever, but I think I added some cleavage here. Like, let's be honest, like that's, if you can disguise self, you're going to be doing that. So yeah, I am going to like lean forward, but not like in a like falling out kind of a way, just kind of more like, it is going to be kind of subtle, but I just want to see if I can get his attention like at all, and so it needs to be somewhere in between that.
Make a persuasion check with disadvantage.
Persuade him.
Isaac, back to you.
Have you seen? And I am aware of what's at least the fact that she's seen this guy and all of that. Well, actually, I'm the one that saw him, but I'm not going to hint at that to Aurora. I don't want to freak her out.
Yeah,
so.
You can still, out of the corner of your eye, you can still see like. Again, you're not trying to look that direction. You don't want to tip her off or the guy or whatever, but you can still go over and approach at the very least. It's hard
I take it the seduction from Grail is going very well.
I'm sure it's wonderful. We'll get there in a second.
So I say, has Faust personally visited any of the warehouses?
We've never seen him. It was only through some digging of other information that I even found out he was associated with the project in the first place, because I wondered who would take such an approach. And when I found out, well, let's just say it didn't surprise me anymore.
How, with such common knowledge, the fact that it's Faust, how is he keeping his reputation? He's the war hero. He's the champion of the war. But and many other of the dockworkers know just who is in charge of this. How is his name going unblemished still?
Because there's a difference between finding out information about him and spreading it. And many of us are compromised in one way or another to where if this started to spread, I fear what the ramifications would be. It's bad enough if we were to fail in this particular endeavor. If something like that were to happen, I think it would be more than just my husband who was at risk.
Is there any evidence, if one were to want to bring this to light, any paperwork that you know of, anything that could lead back to his name? I almost said my father.
That would have been bad.
Yeah, I sure would have.
Because she would have heard it. She says, not especially, no. This is one of those things that seems to be kept off the books. Where the funding for it's coming from, I have no idea, but it wouldn't surprise me, as thorough as he is, that he's had a very keen understanding of what's been happening, despite the fact that we've never seen him, never had any word about what his involvement was specifically. I'm imagining he's probably the clout financially behind this, but what his purpose is for it, or any like traceable evidence, don't think there's anything of the sort.
So no high-ranking officials, no one noteworthy of name visiting here or serving as the figurehead. It's just these two men, heavily armed, who come by every so often, and that's it.
Well, more than two. We see a rotating group of them.
But it's only ever 2 or 3 who come at a time.
At a time, yes. I don't think they're too worried about a bunch of engineers pushing back on them. And they've made examples of those who've tried.
I'm thinking, and I'll tell you what I'm thinking, how the system would allow, like, a huge group of people can't, like, go to the guards or the police and be like, this is happening. And, like, I know why they can't, but it, like, sickens me. So I say, I don't want to take a lot of your time. I know it's a risk even us meeting here. Is there anything else that you want to ask me, or anything that you want to make sure that we know about what you're doing, or Faust, or finding Keith, or anything?
Okay. Back to Grail.
Muted.
You're muted, miss.
Sorry,
you
sorry.
rolled the 1.
There were noises in my house. Yeah, I got a critical fail.
Well, Chris, it's a shame you made a roll disadvantage, because otherwise you would have seen a 2.
I
Yeah, I feel real bad about the disadvantage now.
Yeah.
God damn.
As you kind of lean across the table a bit, trying to get his attention, you actually feel your balance shift, and you end up just kind of going poof on the table. And
it could be worse.
despite the fact
find
that
that
this
charming?
happens, even with this scene in front of him and this noise, his eyes still do not leave that spot. And all he says to you is, "Look, miss, I feel like I've been relatively clear. Move along."
Oh boy. Just seeing how this is going so far. God, nope, I'm not giving up. I'm not gonna do it. I'm gonna keep going. Yep, here we go.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
I'm gonna go ahead and kind of shrug. I'm gonna like kind of sit up straight, kind of like adjust myself accordingly, and kind of hearken for the bartender.
Okay. Karash, you do see her face plant. And then start to save face a bit, but things seem fine still.
I'm embarrassed for you at a distance.
I'm embarrassed for myself, too. Don't worry.
The bartender at this point comes over, asks what you'll have.
Okay. I say, I'll have an ale for myself and for the gentleman here, and I just kind of question.
I'm super curious. Are you so you're standing up? You're around here. The bartender's here. Is anyone positioned between him and sight line to me, us?
This is line of sight broken, is what you're wondering.
Yeah, and if so, does he adjust?
Are you positioning yourself in a way where you do break the line of sight?
That's you, Grail.
I'm thinking. I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah. No.
Still looking forward, not addressing the bartender either. He says, "Nothing for me, thank you."
And I insist at this point. You know what? Here I go. I'm gonna say, "Oh, come on! It's on my dime. What's one drink between friends?"
Isaac and Karash, make a perception check.
Can I also make a perception check, or am I still engrossed in a card game?
Oh, God damn it.
Since that wasn't that one at the time, I'll say you can roll a perception check at disadvantage.
13.
8.
Oh, it's better than I thought.
Welcome to D&D, where the rolls don't matter.
I rolled a 14.
Well, we just assume the party fails at everything they try. What a
Or
shitstorm.
succeeds critically, one of the two.
So Grail, you don't have to make a check on this because you have a up-close look. With speed that surprises you, he abruptly has what appears to be... Calling it a revolver would be a disservice. It's more of a hand cannon, and he's drawn this at a speed that you didn't even anticipate, even though you're looking at him as we speak. His hands go from relaxed at his side to a gun being trained on you at the table in full view of the bartender, seemingly not caring. And he says, "Miss, I really hate to say this, but I will not ask again." And the bartender, who was taking his order, immediately turns around and leaves.
Interesting. Okay. I am going to, my eyebrows kind of raise, and that seems pretty terrifying, but I will kind of sit up straight, kind of like I'll see myself out. Have a good night. And I will just leave. I am not going to try anything else.
Okay. The rest of you, even Karash with that roll, do see this happen. And you watch as Grail, having first fallen over the table and then or tried to order a drink, quickly turns tail and leaves the area.
I'm going to stand up as soon as I see the gun come out. The gun come out.
It didn't get that far, Crash.
He's not that quick of a fire.
The seduction failed.
Damn.
Yeah, the seduction was a lot.
And I'm gonna sit back down and do my best to be nonchalant about it, as though it wasn't why I was jumping up.
Okay. Okay. Isaac, back to you. She says, "The only thing I really want to know is, can you save her?"
I think so. We have a good group. There's great people here. And we are... Shut the fuck up. We're focused on it. And yes, I do think we can save her. And him.
As evidenced by my display.
Yeah, I'm ignoring that.
Well, luckily for you, she saw nothing of that, so...
So
we are a group that is uniquely positioned for certain advantages in this land, in this climate. And I do think we are able to succeed in just about whatever we put our mind to.
I wish you the best. You should also know that we're not far off from finishing the ship. And what that means once we're done and we no longer have a purpose, I'm not sure. Maybe we have to construct more of them and this cycle just never ends. Maybe there's only to be the one, and I shudder to think what that would mean. But I think Dunas may have already warned you, but even he knew this is wrapping up pretty quickly, and you don't have a lot of time to save her.
What would happen if something affected the ship? Externally. Obviously, if he thought you were sabotaging, that would go very badly for you. But if it was a clear attack or some external force damaged your progress.
I assume he would leave no stone unturned until he found out why.
Good to know.
From what I understand from the limited information we could ever get those guys to say to us when they come to check on our progress, these results are expected in a timely fashion. If anything were to set that back, whether it was our own failures or something else, it sounds like that would be extremely bad.
Okay, so we're on the clock then. I don't want the completion of the ship because of the implications for those who are captive. To be honest with you, I also, if Faust wants something, he will.
She rolled a 5.
He has a. It probably means it's not good.
I agree. This whole situation's been bad, and I know there have been folks who have thought about just not going along with it and seeing what would happen, and the answer has always been terrible, which is why, even though it's been going on for so long, we've continued to soldier on and do the best we can with it. The hope is that, from what I understand of him, he's not unreasonable, but maybe the fact that we even know about his presence in this at all will mean that we're too much of a liability when this is done. I don't know. When we started, the thought was perhaps that at least accomplishing this task would be enough, and that after that we could be left alone. I don't know if that's the case anymore.
Would you fear repercussions on yourself? Do you think he would hurt you if something were to happen to the boat?
No. But I think he would hurt my husband. And he might even hurt the girl and anybody else that's connected to this. He needs us still. We're the only people with the acumen to build this thing. Everybody else, though.
I think this is my last question. What you have seen these men day in and day out for a long time now. Give me an assessment of them. Do they seem like riffraff, bandits, or more like soldiers or trained mercenaries?
More the latter. And again, the rare time where they've actually had to get physical with someone who was not working at the pace they should be or was back talking or whatever it might be has always been a pretty swift display. Again, they don't have the luxury of just offing us one by one unless something severe happened, because there's just a limited pool of people who can have the knowledge to build this. But there's usually, non-essential limbs get hurt. Someone had their arm broken because they didn't need it for construction at the time. They were just working on schematics, and they could still write with their other arm. The thing that always troubles me is we never really know when they're coming. And I don't just mean that in the sense that their timing is unexpected every day to keep us on our toes. I mean that their footsteps are always silent, and we never know when they're approaching unless I have a town guardsman who can tick me off or something. It's very strange.
Do they ever speak to each other or you?
They do.
Okay.
They're not men of many words, and again, they're brusque in both their dealings with us and with each other. If they're going to discuss any other plans or anything, they never seem to do it in our presence, but they talk. They'll ask us questions. They'll make sure the progress is what it's supposed to be.
Okay. I think our time is coming to an end. Is there anything else you want to tell me?
I wish I knew more, but we've been relatively sequestered, especially the last 6 months or so as completion has neared.
Okay.
And I want you to focus on saving Sophia. Not that I wouldn't love to have my husband back and be free of this clutch, but she of all people has not deserved this.
Do you feel safe walking back to your place tonight?
I think so, yes. If nothing has come of this conversation. And this is the first time she sort of looks around the room at this point, but she's, she does see Karash, so she's aware that he was kind of watching things. She goes, if nothing came of this and I wasn't followed, I suspect things will be fine.
Okay.
Especially because this didn't run very long. It doesn't seem too out of the ordinary to have come, had a drink, and then gone home.
Well, I want to tell you 2 things. One is we will do everything we can to find Sophia and Keith, though. I want you to know that. It's important to me that we do everything we can. The second is I'm going to get up, and in about 30 seconds, I would like you to make for the door and leave. No matter what you see or hear, just go ahead and make your way to the door.
And she looks a little perplexed, but she also feels like at this point that you guys at least have shown enough technical abilities that she's not going to question it. And she says, very well, I understand. Wouldn't want to be seen leaving together. I will do that.
Okay, so I'm going to get up. I'm going to make my way to the table.
Mm-hmm.
Sit down next to the guy and say, excuse me, is there something you would like to tell me, sir?
Oh my god!
You get a good look at him, especially from the front here. From what you can see, a pretty weathered face, not old, but well-traveled. A scar under the left eye, a stern countenance, and as you approach, you can see as you're going over to the table, his eyes follow you specifically, not Aurora, as you walk over to the table. And in response to your question, he just gives you kind of a wry smile, and he says, oh, just here to watch a few mistakes happen.
Mistakes? How so? Why don't you elaborate a little bit? You seem like a little more than an observer with that hand cannon you have stashed away.
And he kind of chuckles. He's like, oh, you saw that, did you? Well, I'm just a messenger of sorts, is all. Just want to let you know that your father says hello.
Oh, no!
Now, that being the case, I'll be taking my leave. And he gets up, pushes away from the table, and turns to head for the door.
Do you, as being a messenger, do you have a message that you can relay to him as well?
No
I
answer.
call after him. Okay.
Continues to walk. You do notice a slight limp. His right leg shuffles a little bit more than the left as he's walking. It doesn't really slow him down any, but it does appear that he has at least some kind of old injury or something that he's dealing with. Does not respond, does not even stop. Continues to walk towards the door.
I'm gonna see if I can't get make eye contact with Grail from across the room, see if she's paying any attention to me at all, or if he's just watching them or the guy.
I guess the question is, where did Grail retreat to?
That's a good question as well. I think I would have probably retreated to, if there was an empty spot, like at the bar, but like away from Isaac and Aurora.
Okay. So you notice, well, make a perception check since you're a little rattled.
She got a 16.
Okay. You do catch Karash kind of making eyes with you. Well, not that way, but looking in your direction, kind of like trying to get your attention.
I'm going to do the international head bob for follow him, question mark, shoulders, face.
If
Go ahead.
Well, sorry, I've been totally in my own head. I'm thinking there's something I want to do, but I don't want to intercut with what's happening here.
I look at Karash and I nod.
Okay.
And neither one of us moves because I thought I was trying to tell her to follow him.
No. That's fine. Like, I want to make sure there's been like we can't, and then I'm gonna get up.
Okay.
Well, and I sit for a second, and then I get up and kind of make to the door, and that he's exited out of, and I look, and do I see him?
For the purpose of timing on this, who's at the door first?
I think it may have been Isaac, just because I had to like register with Karash what was going on, and I'm a little scared. I didn't want to exactly just.
Had I seen you going for the door ahead of me, I would have stopped you anyway.
Yeah, okay,
or at
that's
least
fine.
given you the sign. You can ignore it if you want to.
I probably wouldn't have ignored,
Okay.
but I think for all intents and purposes, I think you would have been quicker on your feet than I would have been.
So then, Isaac, you're poking your head out of the door?
I'm going through the door.
Okay.
Because he's exiting, right? He's exiting.
Yeah, he's already exited at this
Yeah.
point since you guys took a second. As you swing the door open and step out into the street, that hand cannon is pointed directly at your forehead.
Okay.
He says, I wouldn't do that.
And
I would strongly not recommend you do that.
I'm going to draw my gun and point it at him, and I'm going to say, I'm curious what my father's orders exactly are.
The second you go for your gun, he takes a shot.
Yeah.
You don't have time to draw by the time he's already got that trained on you. That is a
Shit.
29 to hit
Well, that's going to hit.
on a natural 19. I'll give you a little hint. He did roll high. It's also a plus 10. You take...
Holy shit.
I'm going to have to get a dice roller for this because this is not just like a die roll. 26 points of bludgeoning damage
Oh,
as the shot, seemingly not intended to kill, grazes like just off your forehead, and a chunk is blown away by the impact.
Ah!
And you can still try to pull the weapon, but as the shot goes off, he says, I don't know if I made myself clear. I would strongly not recommend doing that. My orders are not to kill you, but there have been mistakes before.
So I'm still going to draw my gun. I'm going to point it at him, and I'm going to say, so my father is just in the business of killing his own son now, is he?
No, what did I just say, boy? My orders are not to do that. But roughen him up a little if he gets out of line. It's no different than what Faust would have done.
So we all noticed his gunshot, right?
Yep,
Yeah, I'm
and he's
gonna
now
run to the
inside
door.
the bar, by the way, as this is happening. There are screams, there are people scattering. This shot actually went into the bar and like lodged itself on the far wall after going past his head. There is a panicked scene on the inside where all of you are, and even like Lena, who may have been engorged in the card game before, although you kind of started to look around, now everybody has that full attention.
I am so glad Aurora is not fucking here.
So my gun is drawn, but I look back, and I see my group, and then I see Lena, and I holster my weapon, and I say, I can't do this right now. But if you see my father, tell him I'm coming for him. And you'll get yours too. I promise you that.
Big words. I hope you live up to the expectations. And he gives you that wry smile again. Spins. Doesn't even seem to care about turning his back to you. Duster kind of flaps behind him as he rotates. Walks to the north.
I am immediately like rushed to Isaac's side. After like a few seconds of like the post shot and not hearing another one, I am like out that door with him.
I'm
God.
going out too. Do I know that he got hit? Like, can I tell from where I'm at, or do I need to go out there?
You can tell as you get closer. You don't have to be all the way out there. Like, you can see he's got a pretty nice wound on the side of his temple.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and heal that real quick.
I'm
Cure wounds.
Okay, what level?
Level.
Remember, you do have up to 3 if you want it.
I'll do level.
Wait, would I have made it to the door before Leonard?
Probably,
Yes.
yeah, since you were already on your way.
Okay, well then I was gonna lay on hands and just dump 20 points into him. So
Okay.
Oh, okay, that
That's
works.
fine. So yeah,
Yeah.
and as you instinctively go to heal him, Lena, you see Karash already there in that familiar glow as he touches his shoulder.
yeah, and then I'm gonna smack him
My eyes are still trained on him as far until I can no longer see him.
Okay.
I'm not gonna let him get away. I'm sorry.
Oh my
this guy's
God.
Fired a shot into a bar. At this point, Tessian feels like he needs to intervene, irregardless.
Does Tessian walk by me?
Tessian, how far away is the door? If you don't mind me asking.
35, 40 feet.
Tessian pretty much stands up pretty quickly and then probably moves like 10 feet or so before he casts a Misty Step to just circumvent anyone who's in the doorway so that he's now outside to see this guy.
Okay.
And then I want to...
Nightcrawler Bamf outside.
Basically, and then I want to cast my once a day levitate on him if I can. Assuming I can see him.
You can still. He's not running away.
I'm going to tell Tessian to stop.
Walking at a calm pace.
Tessian, he's out of our league right now, and you're going to endanger Lena. Is it worth it to you?
He's already done it. I mean, he's teleporting, doing it, and then he's just basically going to try to cast it. Like, this guy can't go shooting shots into public areas. Like, this is just not something Tessian will let happen.
Okay, a Constitution saving throw since he's unwilling.
Yeah.
So, yeah, good luck.
Yeah.
That is.
This is how we die.
That is a 26 on his Constitution saving throw, which I assume beats your DC by leaps and bounds.
Yes, it does. So with that failing, I mean, I don't know if he recognizes or notices it.
Yeah, it's not really clear on this, but I feel like a lot of other spell effects, the target knows if they were targeted, or when the spell leaves, they know that they were under its effect. Yeah. So I'm going to say that he, more for narrative purposes than for mechanics, he does know about the attempt and continues walking anyways with the same gait.
So now my message goes through.
Yes.
To fucking stop.
Tessian looks at Isaac and he's just like, he almost just shakes his head like, this is not going to fucking fly. And he just yells at the guy. He's just like, you stop! You don't get to fire a firearm into a public area like that.
And I'm going to grab Tessian.
No response from the gentleman who's now getting to be like 200 feet away as he continues his walk with that slight limp. It's a brisk walk, but he's not in any rush, doesn't seem hurried. Still no response, doesn't even look back at the words.
Feel like Tessian's going to shake her hand off and follow him.
Well, to what I can, I'm going to try to not let that happen, and I'm going to say, take it from someone who picked fights that he shouldn't have. This is not good right now. We are not ready.
And Tessian's like, it's not even about us. It's about the rest of the people here. Some
Getting yourself killed isn't going to do anything for them.
Tessian does not care about having a conversation with you right now.
Well, he's trying, unless he can break my grip, it's not going to matter.
He's certainly going to try.
Well,
oh my goodness!
You both make athletics checks.
Fuck.
I mean, you're gonna have a higher athletics check than me.
Well, the way Tessian's rolling today, it seems likely, yes.
I rolled a 9. Sure.
Tessian,
we both have -1. It doesn't matter. You still beat me on
12.
Tessian embraces the hug after all. Yeah, you struggle, but Isaac's a little bigger than you are, and you're having a hard time breaking free.
I feel like wasting another Misty Step.
At this point, the guy is just about out of eyesight, a good 250 feet away as he heads north towards the middle of the town.
Use your head. You always tell me about diplomacy. What are you doing right now?
And Tessian's like, unlike you, I'm not a coward that lets people like that walk around the streets.
Getting yourself killed isn't going to do any good, and it's not brave. If you think of someone besides yourself, and again, I look at Lena, I think we'll come to the same conclusion.
And Tessian's like, what are you talking about? That man just fired a shot into a crowd of people. What does this even have to do with Lena?
He was provoked. He was provoked by Isaac.
You guys are all by the door. You had this conversation going on.
And I have no idea what the heck happened.
Yeah. So I'm gonna grab like his shirt. I'm gonna lean in close, and through gritted teeth, I'm gonna say, "He works for my father."
He almost blew Isaac's head off.
And Tessian's like, "Well, would have been good to know." And I'll sort of brush you off.
I tried before you teleported through. Maybe if you listen to me next time, we could get to the point where I can tell you some of this critical information.
And Tessian's like, yes, my bad for wanting to stop a man from killing crowds. What were you even doing with him there? Getting your head blown off, notwithstanding.
My father is a little less concerned for my well-being than I thought. Really, I was testing him, and the test worked. I'll be honest with you, it's not what I was expecting, though.
And Tessian's like, well, that makes you. And then he tries to walk back inside. And he's going to try to check with the bar, make sure everyone's fine inside.
Do we need to check on Aurora?
I don't think so, Karash. This was different, but I don't know. My father knows that we're here. I don't know what that means. If he wanted to, he could have killed her and us at any point, but he wanted to send a message. Maybe he cares a little more than I give him credit for.
I mean, when I was watching you guys, it didn't look like he cared an ounce about Aurora. It was all about you. So I think she's okay.
Your father sends the men to shoot you, and that is care.
You know what, Karash? I'm as confused as you are. Why don't we... And I'm kind of looking around now because I'm assuming, is still like a crowd.
Mm-hmm. Some people gawking. The Senior side is finally starting to calm down a little bit, both because at the time the guy seems gone, and Tessian's now starting to work to make sure people are okay, appease the situation best he can.
Why don't we go up to the room and talk more?
Yeah, we should probably not be here, at least for questions.
Tessian will... Because the Crusaders have a presence in the city, correct? I'm not crazy here?
Yeah, they're one of the main guilds on the eastern side.
Would they be one of the ones to respond to an event like this, typically? Or is there like who's the town guard equivalent, I guess?
Well, there is the town watch. The couple. I mean, you haven't come across them really. I mean, you've seen them walking about, but you haven't interacted with them like the other group did. But the same people with those like white vestments atop regular metal-looking armor are the town watch. They could be somebody that would be in this spot. The Crusaders also, on a bigger scale, would investigate something in the city, and this could fit the bill for that.
Whoever is the person behind the bar, like, in charge of things at this point? Like, are they the employee that's in charge at this point in this situation, or no? Is there someone else that comes out?
Both the barkeep and the woman from behind the desk are essentially trying to work with the patrons as best they can to make sure they're all right as well, because obviously they're like the clients and paid customers, so they're also trying to disperse themselves throughout the room and just check on people, make sure they're all right, calm them down. But you don't really have a sense of like which one's in charge or anything, but either one could be.
Tessian will just get with say the woman behind the counter, and basically inform her that she may want to get a hold of the Crusaders and let them know what happened here.
And she seems a little off-put as well, just because she is surprised by everything that happened, and even though she's not personally scared, she's just concerned about everybody's well-being. But she says she hears you, she's looking at you, and it takes her a second to respond, and she finally goes like shakes herself off. She's like, yes, of course, yes. As soon as we have a chance to make sure everyone here is okay, I'll send someone over there immediately.
And Tessian just sort of tries his best to keep everyone, make sure everyone is actually okay. Assuming everyone is.
Okay. Nobody else was wounded in it. The shot appears to have been aimed such that it wasn't going to strike anyone else. It's actually... it struck above the bar. So you can tell from the angle that he had in the close range that he was not trying to go through the crowd in any way. That shot was aimed for only one person, basically. You can do your forensic work and discover that pretty quickly. So, nobody else is hurt. Everybody is, again, some people are pretty shaken up and whatever, just surprised and scared. But you are able to kind of help mollify that a little bit over a little bit of time, 10 minutes maybe.
That's fine.
So, with the chaotic scene at least somewhat quelled for the time being, we'll take a break here. When we come back next time, we'll have discussions in the room, and then there's some things happening the following morning, perhaps. And we'll see how those are attended to as well. Thank you for watching.
Bye.